What is going on, movie meals? Movie meals, the Mandalorian after show.
Pew, pew,
No
pew.
Kyle today. Guest Tanner is back. No Kyle means we can get as sweaty and nerdy as possible. Are you kidding me? This is going to be amazing. I am extremely tired. He just woke up, but we are here for Mando. So,
Yeah.
Chapter 15, The Believer. Let's just start overall thoughts. Directed by Rick Famuyiwa. What did you think about this episode?
Loved it. Overall. I actually think that I'm more in love with this episode than a lot of people are, actually. I know a lot of people seem like they were talking about like there wasn't like a whole lot of building or moving forward that happened in this episode, which I kind of agree with. But man, it was just a banger of an episode. There was like heartfelt emotional moments. There was some really great like banter and just really excellent just tete-a-tete scenes and some really fun action. I really enjoyed the action this week. Not saying that I didn't enjoy last week's action, but it's just I thought this one was a little bit tighter.
Sure. Yeah, I really loved the episode too. The more I've sat on it, the more I have liked it. I'm still not 100% sold that this is our penultimate episode before the finale. And obviously I need to see the finale, and maybe that will change my mind on this episode because we're not sure what they're going to do. But I really liked it. I really enjoy Bill Burr in Star Wars. I
He's
mean,
so good.
he is. I am such a fan of his. And, when he was in the last season, and I liked what his episode in the last season wasn't my favorite of the season, but I liked the episode.
Right.
And he's a very talented actor. I mean, Breaking Bad, I mean, the man can act. And he's very funny, but in this, they want him to feel a little bit more human when it tends to, everybody's an alien or this or that. And we finally got something I've really wanted out of this show, which is what Game of Thrones always gave us, which was just a little short conversation between two characters. And that conversation I loved when they're driving and they're talking about, Mando with the mask and his rules and everyone's rules and what happens when you break those rules, because he's already there. And, he's really foreshadowing what's about to happen with him, because he's about to break a rule that he shouldn't and cross a line that he shouldn't, where it's going to put everyone in danger.
Right.
And I ended up really liking the episode. I really like the conversation they have at the table. I love that look, there's been complaints there's no character development. There's been character development, and you're not paying attention.
Absolutely. It's
got more of it.
It's a slow burn character build. And it's all been done through his actions. And how often do we honestly get that in TV series or movies? I love it. I love it.
I'm 100% with you. And in this episode, it took a turn where we finally saw that he will really do whatever it takes to get Grogu back. And at the very end of the episode, I loved that Mando sends a message to Moff Gideon and says, look, you have taken something from me that means more to me than you know, and you've made the biggest mistake of your life. And dude, I loved it.
Great. You know what? I didn't actually really realize this or think about it until I really kind of processed through it. That's the same. Mando gives the same speech to Gideon that Gideon gave to Mando at the end of season 1. Oh, it was so good. I
didn't even realize that. That's great.
Full circle, baby. Although, I mean, like, I was sitting there as he was doing that, and I was like, yes, this is awesome, but you just gave yourself away, you dingus.
I like the cockiness, though, because we don't see that, in traditional Star Wars, we're following Luke, and he's not that type. The Jedi are not that type, the cocky, we're going to go get him type, and I love that he is doing that. We did lose a Bill Burr. So we will eventually have to talk about, are we getting the Magnificent Seven? Who are we getting? Because now we only got 4. Which leads Ahsoka, Rex, and Sabine Wren.
That'd be pretty rad.
We don't see them again, and it's just the 5 of them, and they go.
Could be, I guess. I feel like I don't know. I still feel like they're gonna either need or want to get more, but our theories from last week have kind of been blown out of the water a little bit with Mayfield kind of being let go, which I'm really sad to see, but because I hope we get to see more Mayfield in the Mandalorian because he's a great character.
I agree.
Um season 1, I thought seeing Bill Burr in there, it was like Bostonian in space. Oh, this will be fun. And it was a good episode. I wouldn't say it was like knock out of the park acting, but it was like serviceable. It very middle of the road. It didn't feel too much like like a comedian just stepping into the role and just saying, "Yeah, what the heck? We're just gonna have fun with this." Whereas in this one, like you were talking about, dude, funny enough, I'm gonna say that like I think he shouldered this episode and shouldered it really well. Not to say that our other characters didn't get good moments, but it's just I felt like he was the heart of this episode, and it just overall really worked for him. Anywho, I do have some notes.
Real quick before we get to that,
Yeah.
we with our predictions for last week, we talked a lot that hey, this might be the whole episode will be we're going to get the band together. We talked maybe the episode would be a prison break episode, which it kind of was.
Yeah.
And we were wrong on that. So again, they're doing a few things that we're not expecting, while a little bit that we are expecting. And that might be why I didn't necessarily, freak out over the episode, because I thought we were about to get the band together and go get them, and we kind of did. But I still ended up really liking it. What did you think of the runtime? Because it was 36 minutes. When I saw the runtime, I was like, all right. I thought maybe we'd be closer to an hour for the final two, but we weren't.
I'm okay with it. Even though we're not like, I would like to get hour-long 50-minute or literally at 60-minute episodes, just because the more Star Wars, the better. But the thing that I've enjoyed about each one of these episodes is they get in, they tell the story that they want to tell, and they get out.
They get out.
There's not a whole lot of extra fluff that they slap on the episode, and I like that. I like it.
Yeah.
That speaks of directors or people that really know what they want to tell and are really concise with it.
Yeah. And it's, if we put that up to 50 minutes, which is around where people usually want TV to be now, that's only an extra 14 minutes. Like, do I really need an extra 14 minutes in the last episode? Like, I can sit there and think what that could be, but do I want an extra 14 minutes of them having to get him out of prison, or more of them having to do things inside of, the facility? So I agree with you on that. All right, let's get to those notes.
So we open up with Space Bostonian sitting in the middle of the scrapyard, surrounded by nothing but ties, as he's just angrily cracking away on some metal. We see some of the cool repurposed AT-ATs sitting in the background.
Yeah.
I was like, nice. I dig that. Funny thing, I was kind of noticing about this one. You like that first the opener that we get is we see that droid just kind of like walking through the field, and I was looking at the backside of it, and I was like, that reminds me of K2SO.
Tanner, I had the exact same thought. I was like, that is a K2 unit. It's
Yeah,
a K2 unit.
It's got to be a K2. And I was like, it was walking along, and I was like, that is exactly a K2 unit. And then all of a sudden we see the helmet on top of it. It's like, dude, they ripped off the head from the old Imperial unit and slapped on the new processor for the New Republic on it. Oh God, that's brilliant.
Now, were those the same prison droids though from the episode with Mayfield before? I thought they were.
They were not. They were the same. They had the same head. Again, like different processing unit,
different body,
but completely different body. Whereas like this one was like straight up. That's a K2 unit that they mounted onto. The ones that they had on the transport ship, those were a completely like brand new New Republic model. Beefier arms, a little bit more square body, that kind of stuff.
Okay.
I only know
Nice.
that because I went back and I looked.
My guy. What else you got?
Let's see. Fun to see Mayfield again, but then we get Cara Dune that shows up. Shows up to grab her on out. I was kind of surprised by that one, but it was like, okay, no, this makes sense. She's part of the which kind of pays off the last couple episodes of like her joining the New Republic. Now she comes in and actually uses those credentials to get Mayfield out of there, so that way they can get him. To which then we need to find out they need to go to a specific Imperial terminal to try to get the information of where Gideon's at. So unless it's technically a side quest that we're going on, but it makes a lot of sense that we need to find out where the hell this guy's at.
And this has always happened in Star Wars. We got to break in somewhere to get the information to find the guy we need. It's what they've always had to do, and it makes sense in the world that George has built. This is what you got to do to get the job done. I thought it's so crazy that I really thought she did a very great job last season in her episode. Or her episode she was in. And I have felt she has gotten more wooden in this season. Really? I thought she was better this episode than the first episode she was in, but she is apparently going to be in the Rangers of the New Republic spinoff show. Is apparently supposed to be following her and other people, which is interesting because that goes completely against what the rumors were. But then again, that was just maybe Twitter going nuts that she was going to be removed after her Twitter fiasco. But
along those lines, not to stick on the subject for too long, but I did actually see a post talking about how Disney has made it explicitly clear if she is going to be in the new Rangers of the New Republic, she needs to publicly apologize for the comments that she made.
And she hasn't.
I don't think she has. But I guess we'll see where that one winds up.
We've seen Disney be very reactionary with things like this. And then they end up pulling back with like James Gunn. So they're probably wanting to really sit down with her and talk.
Feel it out a little bit.
For anything,
the James Gunn thing, man, that was a whole incident. Anywho, so we after that they're escorted away, and we see one of my I just kind of love this scene. It's just a little moment that we get of like Bill Burr as Boba Fett with his nice fresh coat of paint on his armor.
It looked awesome.
Oh god, it looks so cool. It looked like it fit way better. I think he might have modded it up a little bit, and then he just slapped a new fresh coat of paint on it. I was like, yeah, that looks amazing.
Yeah, great. And if you're one of the people on Twitter shaming him and calling him Boba Fett, you are a horrible human. And you need to go look in the mirror and check yourself, because the man is an absolute stud. He did his own stunts. He's a great actor. Stop being mean to the poor guy.
I do think something from last episode. I think they actually like Tamora Morrison is actually like a pretty built dude.
Yeah.
So I think that cloth, like the big like draped cloth that they had on him, actually kind of made him puff out a little bit more from the last episode, but
people are being very mean on Twitter.
Whatever.
I'm not happy about it.
So he walks out and we see Bill Burr's face drop as he's like, "Oh shoot, I thought you were someone else." And we finally see Mando come out and his face completely drops all over again. It's like, "Hey, you here to finish the job?"
Yeah. I love that. I really loved everything with Bill Burr. Yeah, I mean, he just knocked it out of the park. I loved his dialogue. I'd love to know if he ad-libbed, what he did or didn't ad-lib and kind of just throw out there off the cuff. But I hope he's on the real quick. I hope he's on the documentary if they're going to do it again this season after this. Yes. I hope he's on the Actors Roundtable this time, because even for his one episode, I would really love to hear his take more in depth on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, keep going.
I wonder if he would be in Rangers of the New Republic.
Could be. They kind of get him to, because he was definitely questioning what he went through when he fought under the Empire, why he left, and that really he's got a lot of demons, that he became a bad guy in order
Right.
to help and to try to, make his own living, and help more people, it seems like. So if he kind of got turned and joined them, that would be interesting. It'd be interesting to see Bill Burr lead as a, be a lead in a Star Wars show. I'd be
Right.
here for it. But
Uh, let me think. We moved on from there as they talked about they need to go to a planet by the name of Morak to go and collect Rhydonium, which is originally introduced in the Clone Wars and then later in Rebels as well.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
which was what I mean. Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau are always really good about being able to just like take fundamental pieces from previous series and just kind of dot them throughout, and I love it.
yeah.
So this is sweaty nerd shit. Sorry, sweaty nerd stuff. But
Sure.
as there, I don't know if you noticed as well, but we finally get to see what the inside of Slave One, like the
Yeah,
everyone's sitting around as we see the ship rotate around where they're
it's
sitting.
awesome.
Oh, that was so cool.
It was so cool. That's the first thought I have. I was like, wow, we are in the ship right now, and we've only really seen them in the pilot's seat with like a young Boba Fett being told to like strap in. So it was, I that was cool. It's a cool ship. It's always been one of the coolest ships in Star Wars,
Oh, heck yeah.
in just movie history. So I loved that. It was
Also,
cool. And
the
go ahead.
engine noise as it's like flying off, it's exactly the
So
same.
good.
And oh gosh,
It's
it's
so good.
a lot of nostalgia right there.
Yeah, and the conversation then on top of that was so great in there. Bill Burr being like, "Look, I'm not doing that. You might as well take me back."
Right.
Okay, fine. I guess I will. And then throwing jabs, and I loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was a fun little moment. A fun little moment that we get in there. So another deep cut Star Wars reference was I don't know if you noticed, but Boba Fett has always had a symbol. It's like a white
yeah,
circle with a line through it, and I always was curious about that. And they made it very prominent in this episode, so I took a second to really kind of dive down and find out what that was all about. That is actually the symbol of the Mandalorian that saved Jango Fett as a foundling. To
that's really
which,
cool.
to which they're like, I don't remember or have written down the name of the Mandalorian, but I thought that was just a really, really cool thing of like, not only have we canonized the fact that like he was saved by this Mandalorian as a foundling, and now that armor is passed down generations as they're still honoring that previous Mandalorian that brought them in. Love it. Love it.
That's amazing. I
Uh,
love that.
so we show up, next we show up to the planet where they all kind of have this conversation of like, we might have a little bit of a problem because like I can go in, but we need someone else to go in, as they all start talking about how ISB is probably going to recognize someone. And everyone's like, well, Fennec's like, I'm wanted by the ISB. Oh yeah, and then Cara Dune's like, I'm with the New Republic. I'm also wanted by the ISB.
Yeah, and then Boba Fett's like, I should not show my face around there.
They might recognize me.
Yeah. And then Mando's just like, oh, are you kidding me? God dang it. And then him putting on the other mask and everything, but
again, we get another little like great little character moment of him like, you know what? I'll do it. Like,
yeah.
I have to do what I need to do to save Grogu.
And he still figures out a way to make it work with, at first he's thinking, okay, I have to be the one to do this, because while they're talking, he zips in, looks at the guys in the cart with his helmet, and he's like, okay, I can do this and still be true to myself here. And then we slowly see that crumble where he's not necessarily like, he's like slowly crossing the line the whole episode for him. And
right.
I loved it.
This whole season has been about Mando understanding that there are he was raised with, this is the way, but there happens to be some other ways, and now he's things are being peeled back, like layers of him are being peeled back as he's bending these rules and really kind of coming into his own, it feels like.
Yeah,
uh
it feels like they're doing what we really wish the prequels would have done with Anakin, because
yes.
Anakin's turn is so kind of quick, and there are a couple decent moments in the prequel trilogy, but like if we had gotten something a little more on this line, it would have obviously worked a lot better as a whole, because they're really peeling back what it means to be, who you are and how you were raised.
Right.
He really is just a new Jedi turning for us. He had his own methods, but he's slowly coming against that. He's met people that are changing his ways. So I've loved it. This season has been awesome.
It's been great. I love it.
Yeah,
But anywho, we could wax poetically about that for days.
true.
So they decide they're going to go ahead and capture a Juggernaut transport, which I thought was a fun little reference. I don't do you remember the Juggernauts from Revenge of the Sith, and also there was a shot of one in Rogue One as Jyn Erso is being carried away by one.
Yeah,
But
I
but these
remember the Jyn Erso one.
these ones are like a lot skinnier and like a lot more slender. It's almost like the Empire has like created a modified version of it, is like specifically for transport. I thought
Yeah,
it's fun to see the evolution of the design of them. Anyways, so they get up there and they take care of the stormtroopers, no problem. Then they start to slap on the Imperial armor, and you see Bill Burr complaining about it as he's putting
yeah.
it all on. And
Takes the helmet off.
yeah, and then we see Mando roll up in the stormtrooper armor, and you're like, man, you are just not as cool without your armor.
Yeah. And then going off of that, then they head towards the facility, and we get the great moments of conversation there about what it means to cross the line or not cross the line. And we've heard this kind of argument that a few people have made, where it's like, well, at the beginning of the episode they said there's nothing there, and then they get there and there's people there. And it's like, that's what the Empire did. They
Right.
pushed out propaganda and said, oh, we're going to put a massive mining colony because we really want Rhydonian, the Rhydonium. Let's just say there's no one there, so that way we don't look bad when we are actually oppressing a people, to the point
Right.
where the people are rising up as pirates. And then in the episode, you sit there and you're like, I had the moment where I was like, man, I want my heroes to win. But wait a minute, these guys are probably just natives trying to save their planet.
Right.
And they're taking them out. But I like that Star Wars does that. And the people who are complaining about that are clearly not paying attention to how the universe is ran.
Absolutely.
That's why the Jedi can go from being mythical to, even though they were really around during the time of episodes 3 to 4, because the Empire just pushed out heavily, hey, these guys are not real. This is not real. It's a bunch of mumbo jumbo, as our boy would say.
Right.
And I mean, if you can't believe that, then you're not paying attention to what's going on in our own government. Like, are you
Right.
kidding me? So I love that they actually took that route. Oh, there's nothing out there. And then they're driving through and they're like, wow, these are the horrors of the Empire. And it helps for Bill Burr, I think, get back to what, why he left and started being more of a, not a traditional rebel, but being more of a scoundrel in that kind of sense. And
Right.
you see him kind of go back to himself of why he left the Empire, and maybe that he's gone too far past the line to now where he's been an imprisoned villain.
Yeah.
And him start to come back. And I loved that they were driving through, looking at these natives that were of the planet that were just kind of run down, and then the pirates who were trying to liberate their people, and then to get taken out in some awesome on-train fights by Mando, which was awesome. I loved the fighting.
Oh man, between the conversation that we get between Bill Mayfield and Mando, which very much kind of reeked of like introverted persons sitting in an Uber while the Uber's just trying to constantly strike up conversation. And
Yeah.
oh man, we get those wonderful moments of like so what is it like, what's okay for you? Is it like, can someone not see your face, or is it more or less you just can't so you can't take your helmet off, period? Because there's a difference between the two. uh and then the other one being, I actually ended up writing down the quote to this line. It was just very resonating as he was talking about these people. They don't care. They think of the New Republic, Empire, they're all the same. We're just invaders on their land.
Yeah.
And then he finishes the whole thing up as long as you can make it through the day and still fall asleep, you're doing pretty darn good. And
Yeah.
the delivery of all that, it just felt very like you could really feel it, like what Bill Burr was saying in that moment.
Yeah.
um and it was just the whole scene was just very resonant, like you're talking about with Game of Thrones. Just those little character to character scenes that we get are just so, it's where a lot of the meat of some of the show can pop up, and I love it.
Yeah.
But then we straight up get like a Mad Max scene.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Oh, I loved it. And then Bill Burr's screaming at Mando. It's like, you're shooting blasters near the Rhydonium.
Yeah. It reminded me a lot of the train scene for the coaxium in Solo.
Yes.
And I really like that scene in Solo. And I like that the Empire is going after so many different, materials that can, that they can use, coaxium, the Rhydonium. And there was a moment, and I don't know if you caught it, I'm sure you did, but when Mando goes up, he kind of goes to block a punch, and it goes through and his arm goes down, and you can tell there's a moment, and everybody's been complaining, I want to see his face, I want to see his face. He's in the suit, and you can tell he has a moment where the acting of Pedro Pascal comes through, and he like looks and takes a quick beat, and it's like, I'm not wearing my armor and I can't fight like that right now. Like, I completely forgot. And then he starts dishing it out. And they just keep coming. I love the little Captain America moment where he's beating them all, but he's laying down and he sees like 8 more come up and they all pop their things. It's just
their thermal detonators.
It's just like when Thanos, the whole army's behind him and no one's around, and Cap's just like, oh God. And he just gets up. They both just get up. I loved it because it was also a callback to when we first saw Grogu use the Force, and he was just getting his butt whooped by the Rhino. And he's just like, ugh, like he just gets up. And I loved it, especially because he has gotten a bit cocky this season with the armor. And I know it's something you touched on where he just jumps in front and he's blocking shots because he is decked out in all this armor now, but he doesn't have it. And the moment for him I really liked as another character piece to check and be like, okay, I really am a lot less without the armor, and that is important for me to remember. And I liked it. That fight was awesome. Hats off to Rick. It was maybe one of the best fight scenes of the show so far.
I completely agree. And also, not to mention, I think he takes probably like 6 or 7 hits in that whole thing.
Yeah.
We see armor just like blasting off, like his shoulder piece ended up completely flying off. And right at the end of that fight scene, you hear, like, as he's getting inside the tank, you hear him grunting as he's like, man, that sucked.
Yeah, he's like, and he's like, put this back, and he's like, oh my God.
But dude,
I loved it.
It was so weird to be excited about TIE fighters showing up to save our heroes.
It was.
And then followed up by Bill Burr doing the whole like, man, I've never been so more excited to see stormtroopers, and then the salute and everybody's celebrating. It kind of gives it does a weird like juxtaposition of like of seeing the Imperial side of people celebrating.
And for anyone listening, if you loved that, what Tanner is saying, go read Lost Stars, the Star Wars book. It does that. It's a love story. It is incredible. You and Olivia would love the book. I listened to it on Audible. It is fantastic.
Lost Stars.
The best Star Wars novel I have read yet from the new era.
Well, oh, for new era. Okay.
No, for the new era. I mean, there's still some great novels I love. The Thrawn series but anyway, Lost Stars is amazing. It's completely off the beaten path. It doesn't really follow any of our main characters. We may meet a few on the way, but it's awesome. You both would love it. Absolutely. Anyway, let's get back to the episode here. Yeah, I did love that. And there's a moment though, because it's happened so many times in the show of them being saved, that I thought, Boba Fett just couldn't take it. He didn't want our heroes to go. So he went and jumped in, and then all of a sudden it's the TIE fighter noise I heard, and I was like, oh my gosh. And then the show shows them coming, and I was like, wow. And then they get the like hero celebration that you forget that, we're only used to seeing Luke walking through and the rebels praising him, but that was a cool moment. And then we get the awesome like diner scene where they're in there eating in the mess hall. It is great. Well, I loved it.
Just a real quick note on previously on the Radonium trip that they have. It was actually paying homage to a 1977 film called The Sorcerer, where an outcast of people are transporting nitroglycerin and doing the exact same thing. That was a pretty fun little reference. I haven't watched the movie.
I love it. Need to put it on the movie club list.
Yeah, and then so we get the moment as they're like, okay, there's the terminal. That's the place that we need to go. And Mayfield's about to walk in there. All of a sudden, he sees Valen Hess, gets cold feet, turns around and says, I can't do it. Like,
yeah,
that was my old commander. And this was one of the biggest, like, it didn't make me like teary-eyed or anything, but it was such a powerful, emotional moment that I resonated with so much when Mando sits there and he's like, just give it to me. I know I have to show my face. Just give it to me. And he walks in as he's trying to punch in all the information that he needs.
And he tries.
He tries, and then boop, just pulls the whole thing off. And it's such a powerful moment of the understanding of he is willing to go to the ends of the earth to save Grogu. He is willing to compromise his code. He's willing to sacrifice his body. He's willing to basically put his life on the line to try and save Grogu. That's how much he means to him. And it was, I never thought I would be so moved by someone taking a helmet off. There wasn't even anything said. But anywho, then we get the Imperial Officer who shows up, which, if I'm not mistaken, when he started grilling him, I think he actually made a TK reference to Han Solo, the TK reference to Han Solo, as they're like calling to him in the prison shack. He's like, TK 1 2 3 4. What is your situation? Everything's fine.
Yeah. That's right. I didn't even catch that. That's amazing.
Anywho, so another fun reference that they have in that whole, like, Mayfield shows up to like save the day, and he's like, well, he's my officer, we just call him Brown Eyes. He ended up losing his hearing because of his the transport ended up depressurizing, and he lost a lot of hearing from that. And then we get Valen Hess just like, what's your TK number?
Yeah. I love that. And then they sit down, and when they say, you can tell too that, the whole time you're thinking, okay, he recognizes him, and then he really doesn't.
He doesn't.
And he's just seeing these two heroes of the day that are kind of chit-chatting, and he's like, well, I'm the officer around here, and I wanted them to remember that they are nothing compared to me. And
Right.
So he sits, has him drink, and then he slowly starts to realize who Mayfield is as he keeps talking about, let you nerd out first about this, because I know how excited you are about the Operation Cinder kind of drop.
Oh God, that was such a deep cut, and I love it.
Yeah. It was awesome.
I was trying to do a little bit of research as he made mention that he was on a planet called Burin Khan when Operation Cinder was happening.
Yeah.
And well, for anyone that doesn't actually know what Operation Cinder is, it's basically the Emperor's scorched earth policy after he was killed. It was more or less of like, well, if they can't have it, or if I can't have it, they can't have it either. So I'm going to wipe away Imperial assets, and we're going to readjust.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just an amazing. I'm happy that they really brought that one in, because Cinder really kind of goes to show what kind of a state the Empire is really in, like why we don't see the Empire as massive as it once was before, and also it just goes off to show how extreme the Empire has really become as well.
Yeah. I loved it. And just you can see in Bill's acting and what he's bringing out of Mayfield and the layers that are being peeled back just in the words he's saying, and Bill Burr being Bill Burr, talking faster and faster and faster and starting to interrupt and be like, no, you did this and you took people from their homes and you slaughtered them. And it is an awesome scene. It's the scenes I've been wanting a little bit more of the show. If I could want anything, it's those kind of Game of Thrones scenes. And we got a lot of it this episode. And I am here for it. And the more I sit and think and talk, the more I love the episode.
Right. And oh man, you really feel that emotion and just see it all on his, just bear down on him as he's talking about the mudscuffers, the civilians, the families of the troopers that were down there. 5,000 to 10,000 troopers just dead, like straight at your orders. And until finally he's like, can we make a toast to something? It felt very much, I remember what I was thinking of. I was like, this totally reeks of Inglourious Bastards in the basement scene.
Yeah.
As they're all like disguised and sitting downstairs, everything's super duper tense until finally he just says the one thing, is like, to Operation Cinder. Bill Burr does exactly what we're all thinking. It's just, bam!
Yeah. And I really like that scene then with them leaving. I like that they busted out through the outside, knowing that if we can get outside, we are in much better situation. And then I loved the kind of, to throw out a Full Metal Alchemist reference, like the Hawk's eyes watching you kind of moment, where the snipers are just being like, hey, just get to the ship. We got you. All you had to do is get outside and we got you. And I love those kind of Star Wars moments. And those are such fun scenes. Yes. In any medium, when your characters are running and guys keep jumping up and then just being taken out. And the characters aren't even looking back. They're like, we just gotta go. What I wish I felt like in Warzone every time we played, where somebody was taking care of my back running through a field. But I love those scenes, and that it was directed so well. I loved it.
Man, if there's anyone that I feel bad for in this whole scene, though, that's poor little, I've dubbed him Steve the Stormtrooper. As he's walking in with his little tray, he's just a poor guy that just wanted to like finally take his lunch breaks. That's like a 2.5 hours late, and he just walks in on this and then gets blasted in the chest. Poor guy.
It's the Empire. He hadn't had food in 2 days. He'd been working, and he was like, oh, I'm so pumped for this crappy food, and looks up, watches his commanding officer get shot. And in his mind, he was like, oh, the damn rebels are back again. Like, he just lost it.
Well, this sucks.
He's the cabbage guy. He's been the cabbage guy from Avatar and Star Wars. He's been in every moment where that's happened, but luckily survived until now. And then it finally hit. But
so they hop on the ship and they're starting to fly away, and then Bill Burr's like, hand me that cycler rifle, and then takes the shot of the decade and nukes the entire facility. Loved it. But dude, the one that made me lose my mind that they actually did is the two TIE fighters start chasing away as as Slave One's starting to
Oh,
fly up.
yes.
Oh my god! I was literally,
Yes.
dude, as it was flying up and the TIE fighters were coming behind, I was literally sitting there thinking, I was like, man, it'd be pretty cool if they dropped a seismic. Oh, as the seismic charge drops out and blasts the two TIE fighters, and we get the classic silent like explosion.
Yeah.
Whoom! Oh my god.
It was awesome.
So there for it.
Their Boba Fett, since they announced Boba Fett is not going to be a spin-off show,
Yeah.
but Ahsoka will be, which is the one I think we were all on this show more interested in than most of the other options out there.
Yeah.
I like that he is starting to. He feels like the Hulk now of the MCU, and he for the MCU, and he's just like the moments he gets are awesome, but they're not giving us too much of him, which I really dig, and that moment was cool. And then we get the ending. Bill Burr is Mayfield's free to go. He died in action, and I like that they did that, and I like that they saw kind of the human. At least Mando got to see a little more of the human side in this guy that he used to work with that he never saw before.
Right.
And I like that. And then we got the ending we already talked about. But so should we jump into our thoughts for the finale here? What we think is going to happen?
I'm all about it. I'm kind of all across the board now after this episode.
I know. We've been almost like spot on every episode. This episode was probably the loosest we've been, and now it's like, what the heck's gonna happen?
Yeah. So we know that they have. We know that he has the location. Do we think that he's just going to make a straight, now that he's got it, I mean, he's got to go get Grogu. Is he just going to be like, you know what, Beeline, we got to go do it? Or is he going to try to like send out a quick little distress call? Because I don't think that he has the assets to take on
I don't either.
Gideon.
Yeah. Real quick, there's a cool fan art people have shown that somebody drew, which was really cool. And it was Mando and Ahsoka holding Moff Gideon's head up to Thrawn on a throne. Oh. And Disney's never going to give that, but somebody had done that fan art, and I follow a couple of Instagram accounts for some Star Wars nerds, and they had reposted that, and I was like, that is cool. That would be an amazing episode if they ended with that. And if Thrawn shows up at the end of this, that would be cool. I like actually what you'd mentioned, because I have only had in my mind that it would be Mando either going to get Ahsoka for the first part of the episode and then beelining it over, or that they don't get her. But I didn't really think of the distress signal, that he might just send out a signal to the planet and say, look, this is what happened. Like he just sent out a signal to Moff Gideon.
Right.
So he'll beeline and say, look, if you could help us, that'd be great. But I understand you've got your own thing going on. And then her to show up with, the band together, and it's Rex and Sabine would be pretty cool. But yeah, I hope it'd be really cool if we get kind of a last episode, at the last hour of Avengers Endgame, and it was just a massive, awesome battle. Would be really cool. Like whether they get him back or they don't, I want the team to at least feel defeated, if you know what I mean. Like if they get him back, I want them to have really lost, or I want them to feel like they didn't really win, even though they did. I want them to be beaten, the armor shattered. With Dave Filoni, remember, there's that really awesome moment in Rebels when Vader and Ahsoka meet up again for the first time in a long time, and she kind of whacks him in the helmet, and it rips part of his eye mask off, and his eye is just out there, and it's the dark, brown Anakin eye of Vader. And to get a moment like that with Mando, whether he wins or loses, and like half of his mask is just shattered, he's not sure who's dead or alive, and he either has him or he doesn't, I think would be really cool.
Oh man, amazing.
It would be interesting too if we got a moment where he sent out a distress signal. We feel like our heroes are losing. Ahsoka comes to save the day. they have the upper hand. It looks like they're going to win. And then Thrawn comes to save the day. And that would play off of this episode where we've seen the Empire, we're kind of sitting there being like, thank goodness the Empire showed up for our heroes. And then it would play back into, well, now I really wish the Empire hadn't shown up, and just a massive Star Destroyer appeared out of light space. And it just, a shot of following the camera up, and then it's just Thrawn, standing straight up. He's always got his arms back, and he just says, take him out. And then they just start lighting down on the planet, again, Thanos style. And it's like, dude, sire, our troops. It's like, I don't care. And he just takes them out. That would be such a cool moment if they end up keeping Grogu and getting him back.
Right.
I am very pumped for this finale. I have no idea. I mean, I've got these base guesses, but and this is the fun. I'm glad they were able to bring back out, because it's the standing in line before episode 7 and 8 and 9. Like, what exactly, we've seen a little bit, but what exactly are we going to get here, and all the theories and the expectations, and are we going to get something amazing? And right now I believe we will. I have no reason not to trust them. They know exactly what story they're telling. But any thoughts on everything? And
the thing, I'm completely in step with you, because like if they could Empire Strikes Back this some way of the bad guy of the good guys lose, or maybe we get Grogu back, but there's a lot that gets suffered that we suffer because of it. I did have actually a question, because I actually don't know. I haven't looked this one up, but have they gotten approval for a season 3?
Yes, it was announced. Season 3, I think, is supposed to air this time again next year. And I think they want to make this like a yearly 8-episode thing. Hit that November mark. It does not, I mean, the technology, and Kathy talked a lot about the tech they have built for Mandalorian, how it's come into stuff for different shows. And, you don't abandon this show. This show has saved, this show may have well saved her job if she is wanting to continue as the head of Lucasfilm, because this show is universally loved outside of that small minority of hard Star Wars fans. I never have seen from the common folk anyone hate this show, hate an episode. I have seen people just dig it. I've seen people who I don't think would ever talk that they like Star Wars to be just enthralled by this show. I've had fellow teachers that I wouldn't expect to be like, do you watch The Mandalorian? It's the only nerd thing I watch, but I love it. And it's like, this show works, and they have a lot to figure out depending on what happens with Grogu, because if Grogu gets taken, you've got a good plot line for next episode of like some serious things you can do. But if he doesn't get taken, are we just, and Ahsoka doesn't join them on the crew, is this next season just back to, I got to get him to somebody else? Or no, is he like, I will train him, and they'd maybe do like a time skip or something, and we get a little bit older Grogu? Seeing a Jedi bounty hunter might be kind of interesting.
Oh, that'd be wicked. I still think from this episode that later seasons, either 3 or 4, Mando is specifically tied to Lady Bo-Katan and the plight of the Mandalorians.
That's right. That is another great thing they can do, whether Grogu's with them or not, for a great plot line.
And maybe we even do. Do we see the other Mandalorians show up to try to save Grogu?
Maybe. It's possible. And, if they do Magnificent 7, we need 3 people to round out that number. And it could not be Ahsoka on that crew at all. It could just be the 3, Bo-Katan and our 2 allies to join on the fight.
Right.
And it could be that they happen to go to the same place, because we know that she is looking for Moff Gideon. So it could be, they disguise themselves as stormtroopers yet again in classic Star Wars, and they bump into each other, both disguised as stormtroopers or something like that, and being like, oh my gosh, you want to help us out? Yeah, we're doing the same thing here. That actually makes the most sense. They foreshadowed a little bit, because she is going after the Darksaber, but that would be That would be
That
good. And then we know where we're going for next season.
also, do we? I have a sneaking suspicion that Thrawn is going to be the baddie in Ahsoka.
Which would make sense.
Which would make sense. There's a very real chance that he does show up in Mandalorian because they are liking. It seems like they're really liking to tie all of these different events together in a very MCU fashion,
and it's working.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, do we continue to get Gideon being the bad guy that's constantly dogging the Mandalorian and Grogu, or is he gonna die this episode? I really hope that. I hope we get to see more Gideon because I just love Giancarlo Esposito.
I do too.
And to be honest, I at times I think it would almost even be nice to get kind of like how Clone Wars does. There's like full episodes dedicated to Savage and Maul. I think it'd almost be pretty cool if we even got an episode or two that were like not entirely, but like all dedicated to Gideon quite a bit.
Yeah. I'd be for that.
It just because Star Wars has always done a great job of telling multiple perspectives. I think, like even in the classic trilogy, we're never just looking at Luke, Han, and Leia, and Chewie, and C-3PO and R2 going on an adventure, doing their thing. We're also seeing Darth Vader having his conversations with the rest of the Imperial leads and whatnot. Conversations with the Emperor. What I was totally spacing the name out on him. And I'm hoping that we get to see more of that. Not to make them the hero, but I just want to see more perspectives, and I think that'd be fun. I don't know if I'm gonna be honest with you, man. I know what I want out of this. I know what I would like to get out of this episode, but I don't know what we're going to get. Like my predictions are just kind of all across the board right now. If my gut is telling me, from what we've seen, that the good guys are going to win this episode, so they're going to get in there. They're going to save Grogu. Gideon may or may not die, and that Ahsoka seems like the easiest pull. That if Mandalorian was like, "Hey, baby's in trouble," she'd be the first one to be like, "Hey, I'm on my way." So maybe she shows up, helps out, we get him back. That's kind of what my gut's telling me. But I want him to lose. Anyways, did you have any other final thoughts on predictions? Or
I'm in the same boat with you. I like that we're not knowing where they're going. I think when this show is over, it's over because Dave and John are done with the story. They are wrapping. I think they have proven that they deserve the Breaking Bad treatment. I don't want to, we don't want to drag this out Walking Dead style. We want to wrap it up in the best way possible, Breaking Bad style.
Right.
And I think that they want a season 3, so they will get their season 3. All of the interesting, like all of the points you were talking about and that I mentioned as well. Like I'm interested in all of them. I'm not necessarily leaning one way or the other. I don't really want Moff Gideon to die. I'm with you there. I think it would be cool if Moff Gideon loses, or if he wins, if he is like the only one to escape, and heads to Thrawn, and maybe he says, "Hey, this happened. I need your help," or something like that, and then Thrawn kind of joins up. Would be cool. So I'm just excited with what they've got going on. Is there any final thoughts before we wrap up the episode here?
Great season, and I'm excited to see. I'm so stoked for the last episode. Something I don't know if you wanted to touch on it all, but some of the like big news we could touch on just super quick if you wanted to, of the
sure. I'd love to get your thoughts on all the Investors Day. I call it Comic-Con 2.0 or D23 2.0. I know Kyle and I talked about it, but we can just stick to some of the quick Star Wars stuff because I know you're you are very pumped for one show or one movie in particular that
Oh,
they announced.
so stoked. It's the Star Wars movie that I've wanted for an eternity, and they're finally doing it with Star Wars Rogue Squadron, and I'm pumped about it because I love.
Directed by Patty Jenkins.
Oh,
That's
yes.
awesome.
And the little teaser that they had where she was talking about, like, my dad was a fighter pilot way back when, and I've always wanted to, like, make the best fighter pilot movie, but I just couldn't get across it. Like, I never came across the right script. And I finally did. I was like, yes, this is exactly who I want to be.
I would love who
this.
wrote the script. I want to know who's writing this, who's been involved. I love that idea. I think back to some of my few favorite moments of space battles. Like I mean the intro to Revenge of the Sith is amazing.
Yeah.
That kind of fight they have. Obviously the old trilogy or the original trilogy has just amazing fights. And then the sequel trilogy, like there's those moments where Poe actually shows how good he is as a pilot.
Right.
It's one of my favorite moments. I know we disagree on the movie, but for The Last Jedi at the beginning when he is taking out the kind of gunners on the ship,
Dude,
and he does that amazing.
I love that shot. Like that whole sequence.
The move where he like hits it and he like does like this crazy spin. Give me an hour battle of that with some new characters. Go Top Gun style with it. I would love that so much. You get an excellent composer to get a score that just sticks with you forever. I trust Patty Jenkins. Look, I've seen 3 of her movies and the first half of her show with Chris Pine. The show, boring. The movies, all 3 awesome. I am all on board with her. I think they really went diverse at this investors meeting with a lot of the people they announced. I love that she has taken over. She'll be the first woman director to get a full feature film for Star Wars. I love that she does that. I love that they said no after the creative issues from a year ago now, it seems like. Deborah Chow with Obi-Wan. I like that they pointed out Deborah Chow is still doing this, which makes me think I said this to Kyle when we did a brief talk, but I think those differences were how does Anakin come back and how does Vader come back and how does he meet him? And I think that Deborah wrote, this is what I honestly think happened. Deborah wrote one way and Kathy didn't like it. And Deborah ran to John and Dave, as she should, and say, look, what do you think of this? And they either tweaked it a bit or they came and had a big conversation, said, look, this is why this needs to happen. She needs to stay in charge. You've been too reactionary, Kathy. It's time for you to leave us.
Like take back. Yeah.
Yeah. And I love that she is sticking with it. I've loved her episodes. I do want to say this real quick here, because it'll tie into something. And this is back to Mando. They have not announced who is directing this episode.
Money's on Taika Waititi.
Either Taika or Johnny Favs is the guess.
Okay.
How would you feel if at the very end it says directed by George Lucas? Because he was on set so much for this. He's been in the news a lot. There's a book coming out about him. He's revealed some things on why he didn't work on the sequel trilogy and his feelings about it. He has talked. He's been in the news a bit more than late. What if Georgie Lucas is directing this episode of The Mandalorian, and they said, look, we want you to come back and direct this episode. We want to be a part of watching you do this and watch the master work.
Oh,
I would love it.
That'd be amazing. I would absolutely love it. I mean, I know that I myself have had my criticisms of George, especially when it comes to the sequels or other movies and things of that nature. But man, you cannot deny that without George, you do not get Star Wars. Period. You do not get the heart.
It doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist. And if we did not have the insanely creative and just talented mind of George, then we wouldn't have gotten any of this. And if he did come back, that would be chef's kiss. I would love it.
I would love it too. Like, could you imagine the ending if they go like old school with how the movies ended in Clone Wars and it just went and they played the original theme just for a little moment for him and it just said directed by George Lucas? Would be amazing. We know John wrote it, but it would be amazing if they said, "Look, we want you to pop into the director's chair," and he did. I think that would be incredible. Because they didn't keep it this secretive, did they, for the first season on who was directing all the time? I think they did a bit, but I don't think they did it almost episode by episode.
I think no, they didn't keep it this secretive. I think they announced everybody up until the last episode. Then I think mid-season, Taika Waititi was announced as directing.
Yeah,
Final.
and now they've kept it a complete secret, even though it was leaked that Robert Rodriguez was going to direct an episode, and then they released it, and then they never really confirmed it, and then he obviously did. But if it was George, it'd be awesome. And the reason I say that is because and if it's Taika, wonderful. I love Taika. But he is really wrapped up. He is doing the next big Star Wars movie along with Patty. They had announced a couple of guys doing whose names are escaping me were also going to be writing and directing a Star Wars movie, that they had come in and pitched something, and they had done very small indie movies. I cannot remember their names. But they didn't give any announcements on that, which means that must be a back burner thing. Obviously, Kathy just decided to never speak about the Rian Johnson trilogy again in any sort of meeting ever, which makes me feel a little bad for Rian, just because I know how much of a fan he is. And to him just having his own trilogy, I actually think fans would rally behind, where he didn't it wasn't confined to legacy. But
I do think that his talents, I do think, would shine with his own, because I mean Rian Johnson, I mean, I know that we've got differing opinions on Last Jedi, but there's no denying that Rian Johnson is a brilliant filmmaker.
Yeah, and he is a massive, massive fan of Star Wars, and that's evident in his interviews and whatnot, which he's been in the news lately, too, because of some of the stuff the little excerpt that George said in this book that's coming out, kind of tied into a little bit what Ryan talked about with why he made the movie the way he did. But anyway, that's nor here nor there. But we are getting a Taika Waititi directed film written by him and a buddy of his, it sounds like. And I am for that. I got no clue where it's going to be. We are getting a show, too, about the early Republic, where Jedi are at the height of their powers.
The High Republic.
That is what people have been wanting forever. Give me an army of Jedi. That's what I want.
Yes.
And it would be cool if I don't know what Taika is doing, but if he did something that was spinning off of that, I think that would be kind of cool. Or if he goes, like a Plagueis, well, not Plagueis, I meant a Bane or
Bane or
Revan. Revan would be a cool movie, and that could tie into the High Republic because they take place around that time. You could make it work.
I'm curious if, with the High Republic, do you think that is going to be roughly before or after something like the Old Republic? I haven't checked the time. I know they announced when the time period of when the High Republic's going to be, but I don't remember. I don't remember what the time period was. I'd have to look it up.
I don't remember either. I'm okay with either or. I know fans just want the title Old Republic because we're so attached to what we've been given. But, if they just have changed the name and it's pretty much the same and they're going with the High Republic, I think that I really like that name, too, because that's what I have wanted. It is the Jedi at the height of their power in the Republic. And so to say High Republic, I really like. But John and Dave are not doing that. I'm sure they will be involved. But that is a Kathy Kennedy thing, so they need to get somebody serious involved in that. I wonder if they give it to a guy like a Rick Famuyiwa who has knocked it out of the park, and he made Dope on Netflix, which is just an outstanding movie. And what would be really cool to give it to a guy like Rick is to say, hey, this can be anybody. Let me have a black lead for this show in Star Wars. Let's really see something. I mean, we've had black characters, but we have not had a black lead. And let's do that and get some more people of color in there. And I think that would be cool. And you could get. I hope the show follows like a Padawan, because I love. It's one of the best parts of episode 1 is getting to watch Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon be Padawans and master. And I
Yeah.
love the book The Apprentice. It's another book I've listened to on Audible, not a sponsor, but should be. um it's a great book, and it gives me that flavor. So it'd be cool to get like, get me some, not even alien, no aliens. Let's just get people of color, and maybe a young black Padawan learning the ways of the Jedi from a master. I weirdly like the idea. I mean, not weirdly. I like the idea too of more, Native American representation in Star Wars, and it would be
Absolutely.
cool. Like, and this could go either direction of like a Native American master or Padawan for a black Padawan. I think would be cool. It's something we've never really seen, and that would be interesting. Um,
Absolutely. I
and
am so on board with that, especially with the foil that is Star Wars. I mean, there's so much opportunity for representation in
yes.
Star Wars, and I would really love to see them take the bull by the horns on that one.
Yeah, and the big narrative in after episode 7, and I pushed this narrative because I believed it only after episode 7, was that they had done something we had not seen in Star Wars. They had a female lead center. She is the lead, where Leia was a lead, but she was more of the side compared to Luke.
Right.
And then we had two people of color opposite that with Finn and Poe. And then over the course of the next two movies, they both really took more of a sidestep, even more so than I think Han and Leia do for Luke. And and I think that has been evident for what John Boyega has said in his comments since
They did him so dirty, it's not even funny.
they did. I mean, look. I get the Last Jedi points. I get his
Mhm.
storyline. I don't love it, but they repeat his storyline.
They do.
They literally repeat his storyline from episodes 8 and 9. He just meets a new girl and does the exact same thing. He literally, again, rides space horses.
Yeah.
And and I think he is upset about that. So I think getting somebody in there, I think he would very much appreciate a black lead, get a young, no-name black lead, a real talent. And if you don't go no name and you want him to be older, you go get a Michael B. Jordan in Star Wars ASAP.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I would lose my mind.
Oh, that'd be so
Lose it.
amazing. You know that Michael B. Jordan as well is also a pretty big nerd. So
I
I
love it.
bet you
Oh.
if someone approached him to it, he would say yes in a heartbeat.
I have never told this story. This is complete off topic.
Yeah.
And then we'll probably wrap it up here because we have been going, and this is why Kyle needs to be here to rein us back, damn it. But I heard, this was maybe a couple weeks ago, of somebody I knew, because I am, you are as well, big anime fans.
Yeah.
Talking about, she said something. I just overheard this conversation, and she said, I don't get kids who or adults who like anime. I would never date a boy who likes anime. And this is an acquaintance of mine, not really a
Yeah.
friend, and doesn't know that I don't talk to her that much. But I just overheard this conversation and saying, like, um uh don't, I think it's stupid and whatnot. And then the conversation goes on for about another 10 minutes. It kind of diverts, and then they start talking about Sexiest Man of the Year, who this year was Michael B. Jordan. And I was like, and and this girl was like, I love him, I want to marry him, like saying all this stuff. And I leaned in and said, did you know Michael B. Jordan is a massive anime fan? And she was like, he is not. And I was like, he is. The young generation of his age group have actually started to talk a lot more publicly in their celebrity status about it, and he
Yeah.
absolutely is. You should look it up because he really is. And she sat there and looked it up because he is such a fan of like Naruto and those kind of shows. And
Absolutely.
she looked red in the face, and I felt proud at that moment. I was like, get out of here, girl. You're out here throwing that around. But anyway, any final real quick thoughts on the Investor Day? Any last thing you want to touch on? And then we gotta wrap it up.
I'll do super quick bullet points. Shooting off of anime, I'm actually super excited about Star Wars Visions. They're taking the top anime creators from Japan, and they're going to be making short films in Star Wars.
on Star Wars.
Love it. Love it.
I
Love it.
love it. Love it. The unique styles we'll get in animation too is going to be so great.
So cool.
That's going to be awesome.
Obi-Wan and Kenobi. Beyond stoked for that one. Hayden Christensen coming back. Love it.
Hope they do it well with the
Yes.
canon and they're able to make it line up, because you can. I hope they do, and they need a guy like a Rick or somebody to handle it.
There's a chance that they could
Deborah,
botch that
she's
one.
handling it.
There's a chance that they could botch that one with canon, and I hope they don't, but I've got faith.
I'm okay when they bend the rules a bit, because George didn't realize, I think, fully what he had, because even he bent the rules.
Right.
But I don't want them to break the rules. I want it to just bend enough where I can accept it, to not break the rules.
100%. The new Star Wars Andor series with Alan Tudyk coming back as K2SO has got me pumped, because
I know.
One of my favorite parts about Rogue One.
I'm excited for the Andor series. It's very similar to what Lost Stars, the novel, did for me, and getting that, him being a separatist and then him turning his ways to the rebellion and why he's so passionate, I think will be really cool. And to see him get K2SO in kind of a Chewbacca Han style, yes, I think is going to be really fun.
All about that. Obviously, Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic we talked about. I didn't expect to be as excited about Bad Batch until they dropped that trailer. It was the same Clone Wars animation style, and it's almost like a new Clone Wars season. Beyond stoked about that one. There's something called A Droid Story. No idea what that one's about.
It's more for the kids.
Okay, got it.
It's going to be more kid-centric.
Lando, if our boy Donald Glover comes back as Lando to reprise his role for a series, oh God, yes.
Look, you got to call it the Calrissian Chronicles. You have to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And he wants to come back. If he had not already been in talks and he heard that, he's calling his agent and being like, excuse me? Like, what is happening? Because he would have been an actor, I would have said, for a High Republic lead had he not already been in Star Wars, because he would have been such a great choice. But I would love to. Yeah, I'm stoked. A Lando series I can get behind, doing some young Lando stuff, and maybe bring Kira back a little bit and maybe place it before Solo and see them messing around with the what is it called, what Maul is running, it's not the Syndicate, it's something like that though. I can't remember.
I'm totally blanking on that.
Cypher right something now. Is it Cypher something?
I don't remember. I almost want to say it's the Syndicate.
Is it?
But while you look that up, my next bullet point of the Acolyte, I'm also really excited about this one, because it's being told in the era of the High Republic, and it's all about it sounds like it's going to be all about the dark side, and all told from like the Sith side of thing, and that's going to be the main focus. And that's something we've never really seen before in the Star Wars universe. And besides, I mean, obviously, Clone Wars, we get a little bit of Savage and Maul, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would be more than excited about that one. But man, Star Wars Rogue Squadron does not come out until 2023, and that is so far away. It makes me so upset. I want it now.
Yeah, but it'll get here.
Oh, yeah.
I was trying to find it. I need more time to focus, but we have been going on. We need to wrap this up. I think it's the longest maybe movie meals ever. But I love talking. So guys, remember to like, subscribe, share. Kyle and I have hopefully a big announcement tomorrow. But we'll see. If not tomorrow, it'll be later this week, but I'm pretty sure it'll be tomorrow. So make sure to check that out. And yeah, thanks for watching, Mom.
Bye, Mom.